Welcome to the program. Now, former Nairobi Mayor and one-time Makadara Member of Parliament, Dick Wathika, is dead. Wathika passed away last night at the Karen Hospital, according to people close to him. It is understood that Wathika fell ill and checked himself into hospital where he died. He was elected Nairobi Mayor in July 2004 and was re-elected in 2006. Wathika also served as Makadara Member of Parliament from 2007 to 2010 before his election was nullified. Other than vying for the Makadara parliamentary seat, he was also the 2013 main challenger for his relative, the current Mukurweini legislator Kabando wa Kabando. He also served the country as a public works assistant minister. Wathika's last public appearance was during the burial of Nairobi Senator's father's burial in Machakos County, where he was the master of ceremony. We cross over to Burundi now, and the Burundi government has declared that it will not allow the foreign soldiers, including African Union peacekeeping troops, through its borders. This announcement comes a day after the African Union resolved to deploy a 5,000-strong peacekeeping force to the war-torn country. And as KTN's Michelle Ngele reports, Uganda will on the 28th of December resume mediating a peace process in Burundi after worsening violence that has led the African Union to propose a peacekeeping force.
Despite the increasing wave of violence in Burundi, the Burundi government on Saturday rejected the African Union's plans to deploy a 5,000-strong peacekeeping force to stop escalating violence triggered by President Pierre Nkurunziza's extended tenure in office. Burundi government spokesman Philippe Nzobonariba said if the African Union sends troops without Burundi's consent, it will be viewed as an attack. The government claims that Burundi has enough forces to maintain peace. However, AU's Peace and Security Council warned it would take all appropriate measures against any party or actor who would impede the implementation of a present decision. If Burundi refuses to accept the peacekeepers, it will be the first time the AU has sent troops into a member country against its will. Article 4 of the AU's charter allows intervention in a member state in respect of grave circumstances, namely war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. In recent months, pictures of brutal killings in Burundi have littered social media, with many taking to hashtag Pray for Burundi to express concern. There are concerns that recent political violence in the East African country, which has experienced 2 genocides in the past 50 years, could spiral into another ethnic conflict. Uganda said on Saturday it would resume mediating a peace process in Burundi after worsening violence that has pushed the East African country close to civil war and led the African Union to propose a peacekeeping force. The peace process will resume on December 28th after a 5-month hiatus. A group of Kenyan members of parliament have accused East African leaders of doing little to help end the ongoing crisis in Burundi. The MPs, who have formed a caucus that seeks to mobilize support for mediating peace in the war-torn country, have accused East African presidents of sitting on the fence while the neighboring country burns. The caucus, called Friends of Burundi, is seeking to mobilize support from other African and international states to broker peace in the ongoing conflict in Burundi. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
To a story now that caused a scare this morning. And Air France from Mauritius to Paris made an emergency landing in Mombasa International Airport early this morning following a bomb scare. According to police, the Boeing 777 flight 463 was heading to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris when the pilots requested an emergency landing at the Moi International Airport. It had 459 passengers and 14 crew members on board and had left Mauritius at 9 p.m. last night. All passengers were safely evacuated and the device taken out. A witness said a passenger went to toilet and came back, informing the crew that he had spotted a device. The crew later informed the captain, who decided to make an emergency landing. Experts from the Kenyan Navy and the CID are said to have dismantled and analyzing the device.
To be able to recover our luggage, and we cross our finger, maybe the next flight come back to take care about our trip to France.
I can understand, but it's what I say is the world is crazy. Yeah? Last night, very early in the morning today, the airport received a distress call from Air France plane coming from Mauritius. That request was, swiftly granted. The security organs of Security Committee of Mombasa swiftly moved, organized themselves for the reception of the aircraft. The aircraft landed. All the passengers are safely evacuated, and they have now been distributed to various hotels within Mombasa. The investigation is still continuing. A few passengers of concern are being interrogated.
We now want to cross over to our coast reporter, Francis Ontoma, who is following this developing story. And Francis, if you can hear me, do we know what the results and the investigations are indicating on whether this device was in fact an explosive?
Well, just a few minutes ago, Sharon, we've just left the Moi International Airport where we had a press briefing from the Cabinet Secretary of Internal Affairs, Joseph Nkaiseri. And up till now, we are still waiting for a proper briefing because they are saying the scrutiny of this particular device is still ongoing. And up to this time, they have not established precisely what sort of the device that had caused a lot of panic it is. And according to Nkaiseri, he says that it is an affair that may take a bit of time, that in the course of the day we should be knowing that what sort of device it is, and at the same time activities should be resuming to normalcy at the Moi International Airport. But as we speak, tension has still gripped the Moi International Airport. At a particular moment, planes were not being allowed into the airport and out of the airport to try and first of all solve this particular stalemate. We saw the evacuation of some of these passengers, and particularly there were 459 passengers on board, 14 members of crew, and they were being evacuated to different hotels here in Mombasa. Particularly, I'm told most of them have been taken to the White Sands Hotel and the Travelers Beach Resort. We are waiting for this particular briefing to really know the deeper or the finer details of this particular incident that has, as I said, occasioned a lot of tension here in Mombasa, Sharon.
Much, Francis. We shall be keeping tabs with you to know what the results of that scrutiny indicate. It is also good to know that the passengers and the crew members aboard that flight have been kept well. Now let's move on. And the Workers' Umbrella Union once suspended National Social Security Fund managing trustee Richard Langat prosecuted over the controversial 5.1 billion shillings Tasia 2 project. The Central Organization of Trade Unions says it has written to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Director of Public Prosecutions demanding that the case be revisited. The union protested the EACC's recommendation for administrative action against Langat, calling it too lenient.
Tasia project was the biggest scam ever that any person or management of the National Social Security Fund has ever entered into. A project that was earmarked or is earmarked to cost more than 5.03 billion Kenya shillings. We did furnish the anti-corruption with every detail they wanted, every detail about Tasia project. One, Tarsia project was sold to squatters as unserviced plots that are unserviced. After those so many years, NSSF to come back and say they want to service those plots, that was an abuse of office in itself. And here, Tobiko, in his press conference, and I know this is not Tobiko who wrote this, I will give you copies. Because Tobiko, DPP, is the most experienced legal expert we have in this country. He would have not written as such a statement, irrespective of even Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission recommending some administrative action against the then acting managing trustee, Richard Langert. Here, Tobiko clear, the office of Tobiko, I know it is not him, because he can't write such a thing that we'll be able to challenge in court and we will come.
We now want to take a short break here on Weekend at 1. I will be back with more news. Don't go too far. Very phenomenal indeed. Now, with youth unemployment at 13%, many Togolese youth have turned to the motorcycle business to make ends meet. The business that is now quite popular in the country is slowly turning into a key economic driver. Trix Ingado brings us that story.
In a country where persistent poverty fuels social tensions, motorcycle taxis seem to be a solution to the thousands of Togolese youth who are struggling to overcome the odds of poverty. The streets of Lome are literally swarming with these motorcycles. They have provided much needed opportunity for self-sufficiency for youth like Johnson Burney, as well as an affordable, convenient way for locals to get around.
Since I lost my job, I looked everywhere but I could not find one. But I could not let my family suffer like that. I had to do something, so I threw myself into this job. This doesn't really feed you. You can find what you can eat today, but it's difficult to win money and save it.
The sector is now a great contributor to the poor nation's latest recent economic boom. The country began experiencing an improved financial reprieve in 2007 when the EU decided the government demonstrated goodwill after reforms were implemented.
It's a sector that contributes enormously to the development of our country. If everyone buys fuel at the pump, that's about 6 liters per day, which is 1,053 million per day of fuel purchased. In a year, that's in the order of 326 billions a year.
The majority of the motorcycle taxi drivers are in their 20s, reflecting the demographic of a country where 3/4 of the population is under 35. The nation doubles in size every 25 years. Trix Ingado, KTN News.
Kampala District Kadi Sheikh Suleiman Kasule Ndirangwa was announced the new Supreme Mufti of the Kibuli Muslim faction, replacing Sheikh Zubairi Kanyongo, who died in April last year. Speaking to journalists shortly after being announced, the Supreme Mufti promised to work towards the unity of the Muslim community that has been divided into factions in the recent past. Here is that report from our partner TV station NBS in Uganda.
The long wait for the Chibuli-based Muslim faction to have a Supreme Mufti is now over after Sheikh Suleiman Ndirangwa was confirmed this evening, replacing the late Sheikh Zubairi Kayongo. Sheikh Obedi Kamlege, who chairs the 15-member Council of Sheikhs, revealed that for the past 6 months they have been screening a number of potential candidates until they zeroed on Sheikh Kasule. The new Supreme Mufti will be deputized by Sheikh Mahmoud Chibate, who has been acting Supreme Mufti. He will now serve as the first Deputy Supreme Mufti, assisted by Sheikh Habib Kabasa as second deputy.
Sheikh Salmani Ndirangwa Supreme Mufti omupya ye namba 1 amyuka ngera yakulira sharia namba 2 amumyuka sibagulidde manya olezida namba 2 amyuka Sheikh
The announcement comes after a reconciliation committee that was put in place by President Museveni to mediate wrangling Muslims over the sale of their properties failed. Since these efforts failed to yield results, the Chibuli-based faction had to fill the power vacuum left by the late Zubairi Kayongo.
The Eminent Council of Muslims of Uganda, today, 11th of December 2015, have decided to elect His Eminency Sheikh Selemani Ndirangwa, former district of Kampala, as the new Supreme Mufti of Uganda.
Ate bwe mba nsobezza mu mpabule mugambe nti ekkubo ly'okutte si ttuufu, ow'amazima ajja kuba mukwano gwange, ne mu kulwanirira amazima emmaali y'obusiraamu n'ebintu by'obusiraamu oyo yenna ajja kuba mukwano gwange ananneegattako mu kkubo erifaanana bwe lityo era okulwanirira amazima n'okuzza ebyobugagga by'obusiraamu oye mukwano gwange.
Ndirangwa has promised to work with everyone to reconcile the Muslim community and ready to protect what belongs to the Muslim community but also fight for the return of the lost properties. Ndirangwa comes in with Sheikh Nuh Muzata as the secretary for Dawa and the spokesperson as well.
Saba Katonda ne bannange atukulembere ate era n'okusabira n'okukowoola abasiraamu bonna gye bali bakomewo bajje tukole obusiraamu mu bwesimbu mu mazima mu kutya Katonda ate twekube mu bifuba nti bwe kuba kutwala bintu bya umma n'ebirala ebifaanana bwe bityo twekube mu bifuba tulabe nga tubizza.
Uganda Muslim Supreme Council spokesman Haji Nsereko Mutumba says will calm the leadership and ask Muslims under Chibuli to be calm.
What we are appealing to our brothers is just to be peaceful, to be disciplined, and to detest violence. That's all. Otherwise, in their establishment, they are free to elect their leaders and also work for their groups as well as the whole Uganda per se. But putting in mind that all of them are under Uganda Muslim Supreme Council.
Sheikh Siliman Kasule Ndirangwa has been the district Qadi for Kampala, formerly Imam at Chibuli Mosque, for quite some time and is trusted to unite the warring factions.
Well, that's it for today's edition of Weekend at 1. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Sharon Momanyi. I leave you with the weather forecast.